The crystalline chamber floated in the darkness of space, orbiting the bright core of the galaxy. Inside, 247 alien species sat in their designated seats. Some looked like insects with too many legs. Others resembled walking trees or floating clouds of gas. The chamber glowed with soft blue light as holograms danced in the air. Captain Jiho Park stood in the center of the room. His blue uniform was crisp and clean. Beside him stood Dr. Heejin Kang, who carried a data tablet with trembling hands. Commander Minho Choi remained near the entrance, his face calm, but his eyes alert. Archon Velthrees rose from the highest seat. His insect-like body clicked and clacked as he moved. His voice came out in a series of chirps that the translation device converted to words everyone could understand. "So the humans have come begging for membership," Velthrees said. The chamber filled with chittering sounds. Some aliens made noises that sounded like laughter. Jiho kept his face neutral. "We come seeking partnership, not begging for anything. Humanity wishes to join the galactic community." Heijin stepped forward and activated her tablet. Images appeared in the air around them. Human cities with tall buildings, space stations orbiting Mars and Europa, ships traveling between stars, medical advances, art and music from 100 different cultures. "We have prepared everything you requested," Heijin said quietly. "Our technological achievements, our cultural developments, our commitment to peace." A reptilian counselor named Thrax leaned forward in his seat. His ancient eyes studied the humans carefully. He had seen thousands of species come and go over his long life. Velthrees waved one of his sharp appendages dismissively. "Peace. We have reviewed your history. Humans. You have fought wars constantly. You have killed your own kind over land, resources, and ideas. You split the atom and immediately used it as a weapon." More laughter echoed through the chamber. A blob-like creature oozed with amusement. A bird-like alien ruffled its feathers in what looked like mockery. "That was our past," Jiho said firmly. "We have grown beyond those days. For the last 200 years, Earth has known peace. We have united as one species. We have reached the stars together." 200 years? Velthris's voice dripped with scorn. "My species has maintained peace for 40,000 years. Some here have never known war for hundreds of thousands of years. You are children playing with toys you barely understand." A counselor shaped like a crystalline structure spoke up. "Your ships are primitive. Your energy systems are wasteful. Your social structures are chaotic. What exactly do you bring to this council?" Heijin's hands gripped her tablet tighter. Minho's jaw clenched, but he remained silent. "We bring new perspectives," Jiho answered. "We bring determination. We bring the spirit of exploration and discovery. We bring hope." The chamber erupted in louder laughter. Some aliens slapped their appendages against their seats. Others made sounds that the translators struggled to convert. "Hope!" Velthris's laugh was cruel. "Listen to them. They speak like poets, not diplomats. This is exactly why primitive species should remain isolated. They lack the sophistication for true civilization." Thrax had not laughed. He watched Jiho's face carefully. The human's eyes showed no fear, no shame, only quiet dignity and something else. Something that made the old reptilian counselor feel uncomfortable. "I call for a vote," Velthrees announced. "All in favor of rejecting humanity's application for council membership, indicate now." Lights appeared across the chamber. 246 lights glowed red. Only one light stayed dark. Thrax had abstained from voting. "The decision is clear," Velthrees declared. "Humanity is rejected. You will return to your small corner of space. You will not expand beyond your current borders without council approval. You will not make contact with council species without permission. You will remain in isolation until you prove yourselves worthy. If you ever prove yourselves worthy. The final words were said with such contempt that several younger counselors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Jiho nodded slowly. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many counselors as possible. Some looked away. Others stared back with cold superiority. We came here in peace, Jiho said clearly. His voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. We came hoping to learn from you, to share with you, to grow alongside you. We believed the Stellar Council represented the best of galactic civilization. He paused. The chamber had gone quiet. We were wrong, Jiho continued. We will leave now. We will return to our corner of space as you command. But I want you to remember this moment. Remember that we offered friendship, and you responded with mockery. Remember that we came with open hands, and you slapped them away. Remember this, because one day we will meet again, and when we do, you will see what humans truly are. Is that a threat? Velthris demanded, rising higher from his seat. No, Jiho said calmly. It is a promise, not a promise of war or revenge, a promise that you will see us again. And when you do, you will regret treating us this way. Heijin and Minho followed Jiho as he turned and walked toward the exit. The three humans moved with quiet dignity. No one stopped them. No one spoke. As the doors closed behind them, the chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, Velthris laughed again, and others joined him. But the laughter sounded forced now. Uncertain, Thrax did not laugh. He sat in his seat, his ancient eyes staring at the door where the humans had departed. He had seen that look before. That quiet determination. That refusal to be broken by humiliation. He had seen it in the Kelvari species, 3,000 years ago. The Council had rejected them too. Within a century, the Kelvari had surpassed half the Council in technology and influence. Within 2 centuries, they had become indispensable. You have made a mistake, Thrax whispered to himself. A grave mistake, but no one heard him over the sounds of self-satisfied aliens, congratulating themselves on maintaining the purity of their council. 6 months had passed since the rejection. Admiral Yuna Lee stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching the stars stream past the viewport. Her gray uniform bore medals from a dozen campaigns, defending human colonies from pirates and natural disasters. Admiral, we're receiving another communication from Earth, her communications officer reported. President Jiang wants an update on the expansion progress. Yuna smiled slightly. Tell her we've established 17 new colonies this month. We're ahead of schedule. 1 starred. We're ahead of schedule. On Earth, President Sora Jiang sat in her office overlooking the rebuilt city of Seoul. The skyline stretched endlessly, mixing ancient architecture with gleaming new towers that reached toward the clouds. She reviewed reports from across human space. 50 new star systems had human presence now. Mining operations, scientific outposts, agricultural colonies, diplomatic stations. Each one built without asking permission from the Stellar Council. Each one a statement that humanity would not be confined. They told us to stay in our corner, Sora said to her advisor. So, we're making our corner much bigger. Across the solar system, in a research facility on Europa, engineer Daeho Kim made final adjustments to his life's work. The quantum fold drive sat before him, humming with power. Traditional faster-than-light drives bent space slowly, carefully. His drive folded it like paper. Run the test, Daeho ordered. A small probe equipped with the drive vanished. Sensors tracked it instantly, appearing 5 light-years away. Then, it jumped back. The journey that would have taken 3 weeks took 11 seconds. Daeho's hands shook as he sent his report to President Jiang. Humanity could now travel 90% faster than any council species. They just didn't know it yet. Not all humans focused on expansion and technology. Dr. Heejin Kang had returned to Earth briefly, before leaving again on a new mission. She now commanded a hospital ship called Mercy, traveling to systems in need of medical aid. There, she pointed at her navigator's screen. The Riftani colony. They sent a distress signal 4 months ago. The Council received it too, her navigator said. They're still debating whether to help. Hagen's jaw tightened. Then we help first, full speed. The Mercy dropped out of faster-than-light travel above a brown planet. Cities dotted the surface, but many looked dark, lifeless. A plague had swept through the Riftani population. Their small species lacked the medical knowledge to stop it. The Riftani were not part of the Stellar Council's important species. They were considered minor, insignificant. Their distress call sat in council bureaucracy, while people died. Hagen's team worked for 3 weeks straight. Human doctors and Riftani healers shared knowledge. Medicine was synthesized. Vaccines were distributed. The death rate dropped from 30% to 2%, then to 0. The Riftani elder approached Hagen on the day of departure. He was small, barely reaching her waist, with soft fur and large eyes. The council would have let us die, he said quietly. They did let thousands die while they debated and filed reports. You came. You asked for nothing. You simply helped. That's what neighbors do. Hagen replied. The council rejected you, called you unworthy. The elder's eyes filled with tears. They are the ones who are unworthy. We will tell the galaxy what you did here. We will tell everyone. And they did. The Riftani sent messages across every channel they could access. They broadcast humanity's compassion to anyone who would listen. Many species listened. On a council world, a young diplomat named Nira read the Riftani broadcasts with growing interest. She belonged to a species that had joined the council only 2,000 years ago. In council terms, that made them newcomers, junior members. Their votes counted less than others. Nira had watched the human delegation's rejection. She had felt uncomfortable with how they were treated. Now she watched as humans did what the council should have done. She composed a message and sent it through encrypted channels to Dr. Hagen Kang. You should know that many of us younger members are watching. Keep doing what you're doing. Quote, Hagen shared the message with Jiho Park, who had become humanity's primary diplomat. He stood in a conference room on a space station, meeting with representatives from 3 small species who wanted to establish trade agreements with humanity. We can offer fair prices for your minerals, Jiho explained. No exploitation, no unfair terms, equal partnership. The 3 representatives looked at each other. Under council trade agreements, the powerful species took most of the profits. They left scraps for smaller members. Why? One asked. Why offer us fair terms when you could demand more? You have the ships, the weapons. You could force us to accept less. Jiho leaned forward. Because we remember being small, being overlooked, being told we didn't matter. We remember, and we choose to be different. The trade agreements were signed. Then 3 more species approached. Then 7. Then 12. President Sora Zhang announced the Open Arms Initiative from Earth. Any species in need of help could request it. Any species wanting fair trade could have it. Any species seeking friendship would find it. The Council issued a warning. Humanity was expanding too fast, making unauthorized contact, disrupting established order. They demanded humans cease immediately. Admiral Yuna Lee read the Council's warning on her ship's bridge. She composed a response and sent it publicly. Not just to the Council, but to every species in the galaxy. We don't need your permission to be good neighbors. We don't need your approval to help people in need. We don't need your blessing to trade fairly. You rejected us. You told us we weren't good enough for your Council. Fine. We'll show the galaxy what being good enough really means. Watch us. The message spread like fire. On council worlds, people watched. On independent worlds, people cheered. On Earth, people felt pride swell in their chests. Back in the Stellar Council chamber, Archon Velthrees read the reports with growing anger. Humans were making the council look bad by comparison. Their compassion highlighted the council's bureaucracy. Their fair trade showed the council's exploitation. Their rapid expansion revealed the council's stagnation. Send more warnings, Vel 3 ordered. Stronger warnings. Make them understand they cannot challenge our authority. But the warnings didn't work. Humanity kept expanding, kept helping, kept showing the galaxy a different way. On his ship, old Counselor Thrax watched the same reports. He had lived long enough to recognize patterns. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched powerful civilizations crumble under their own arrogance. The humans are not challenging the council with weapons, he said to his aide. They're challenging us with something far more dangerous. They're challenging us with virtue. And we have no defense against that. 1 year after the rejection, the galaxy looked different. Human ships traveled routes that had belonged only to council vessels. Human colonies dotted star systems that had been empty or ignored. Human voices spoke in markets and meeting halls across countless worlds. Ambassador Yunji Shin arrived at the planet Draelux with a simple mission. The Drayan people had been minor council members for 8,000 years. They paid heavy taxes. They followed strict rules. They received little in return. Their leader, Quakes, met Yunji in a simple chamber. He was tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. His 4 eyes studied her carefully. Why are you here? Quakes asked directly. The council forbids you from making contact with member species without permission. Yunji smiled. The council rejected us. They said, we're not worthy of their rules. So we've decided their rules don't apply to us. We're here to offer friendship. No strings attached. Nothing is free, Quakes replied. Freedom is, Yunji said. We're forming an alliance. Not like the council's hierarchy. A real alliance, where every species has equal voice. Where trade is fair. Where help is given freely. We call it the Free Alliance. We'd like the Drayan to join. Quote, Quakes sat in silence for a long moment. The council would punish us. They would cut off trade. Impose sanctions. They could try, Yunji acknowledged. But 20 species have already joined the Free Alliance. More are deciding daily. The council's power comes from fear and tradition. We're offering something better. We're offering respect. 3 days later, the Drayan people held a vote. 83% voted to leave the Stellar Council and join the Free Alliance. 2 more species announced their departure the next day. Then 3 more. Then 5. The council chamber filled with angry voices. Archon Vel 3 demanded action. They are stealing our members. This cannot stand. They're not stealing anyone, Counselor Thrax said calmly. Species are choosing to leave. That is their right. We gave them technology, protection, order. Vel 3's voice rose high and sharp. We gave them rules and taxes, Thrax replied. The humans are giving them respect and partnership. Which would you choose? Andwa. Across the galaxy, Captain Taehyun Nam commanded a rescue fleet of 12 ships. His mission was simple but vital. A council world called Taraxis suffered from a plague similar to the one that had struck the Riftani. The council had formed committees. They held meetings. They drafted proposals. Meanwhile, people died. Taehyun's fleet arrived in orbit around Taraxis without asking permission. They landed in major cities. Medical teams poured out, carrying supplies and equipment. The Taraxian authorities tried to stop them at first. You don't have council authorization, a port official shouted. People are dying, Dr. Heejin Kang said simply. She had joined this mission personally. We're going to help them. You can try to stop us, or you can help us. Your choice. The official looked at the lines of sick people being loaded into human medical tents. He looked at his datapad showing another 50 deaths this morning. He stepped aside. For 2 months, human medical teams worked alongside Taraxian doctors. They developed a cure. They manufactured millions of doses. They saved 3 million lives. The Taraxian government sent a formal complaint to the Council about unauthorized human intervention. They also sent a formal thank you to President Sora Jang for saving their world. The contradiction was noted across the galaxy. On Earth, humanity's cultural exports spread through space faster than their ships. Music from Seoul's pop stars played on alien worlds. Art from New York galleries appeared in alien museums. Stories from Mumbai's writers were translated into 100 languages. But it was the stories that had the biggest impact. Humans told stories of redemption, of second chances, of civilizations that made mistakes but learned from them, of people who fell but rose stronger. These stories resonated, especially with younger species, especially with those who had been told they were lesser, unimportant, not good enough. Nira, the junior council diplomat, secretly compiled reports for humanity. She sent them through encrypted channels to Jiho Park. The reports detailed growing fractures within the council. The younger species are restless, one report read. They see what humanity offers and compare it to what the council provides. The comparison does not favor us. Senior members refuse to acknowledge the problem. They believe their age and power make them right. They're wrong. B. Jiho shared these reports with President Sora Jang and Admiral Yuna Lee. They met in a secure room on a space station orbiting Earth. The Council is fragmenting, Jiho said. But that makes them dangerous. Cornered animals lash out. Let them, Yuna said grimly. We're ready. She was right to be cautious. Archon Velthrees convinced the hardline council members to take action. They would make an example. Show the galaxy that the council still had power. A council fleet of 40 ships positioned itself near a human colony world called New Busan. The message was clear. Submit or face consequences. Admiral Yuna Lee took command of the human defense fleet personally. 30 ships against 40. The odds were not terrible, but they were not good. Then something unexpected happened. Ships appeared from other star systems, not human ships. Drayan ships. Riftani vessels. Ships from species that had joined the Free Alliance, and species that hadn't but respected what humanity represented. Within hours, over 100 ships surrounded the Council fleet. They didn't threaten. They simply positioned themselves between the Council ships and the human colony. A message came from Corlix of the Drayan. The Council will not attack this world. If they do, they attack us all. The time of bullying is over. The Council fleet commander found himself in an impossible position. He could attack and start a war that would tear the galaxy apart. Or he could retreat and show everyone that the Council's power was an illusion. He retreated. News of the standoff spread instantly. The mighty Stellar Council had backed down. Their threats meant nothing. Their authority was crumbling. On dozens of worlds, protests erupted. Council citizens demanded reform. They wanted fair representation. They wanted responsive government. They wanted what humanity had shown was possible. 5 major species withdrew from the Council within a week. These weren't minor members. These were civilizations that had been part of the Council for tens of thousands of years. Their departure shook the foundation of galactic order. Archon Velthrees called an emergency session. The chamber was half empty. Many seats sat vacant. The species that remained looked uncertain, worried. This is humanity's fault, Velthrees shouted. Councillor Thrax rose slowly from his seat. His ancient voice carried weight that even Velthrees could not dismiss. We rejected them, Thrax said quietly. We mocked their history of violence and conflict. We called them unworthy. We sent them away. He looked around the chamber at the empty seats. They responded with compassion, with fairness, with respect for all species, regardless of size or power. And now you ask why our members leave us. Thrax's eyes focused on Velthrees. They leave because humans have shown them what we should have been all along. We rejected humanity for their past conflicts. Now, they shame us with their present virtues. The fault is not theirs. The fault is ours. The chamber fell silent. Even Velthries had no response. The galaxy was changing. The old order was dying. And humanity stood at the center of it all. Not through conquest or threats, but through the simple act of being better than those who had judged them. 18 months after the rejection, the Stellar Council was falling apart. The crystalline chamber that had stood as a symbol of galactic unity for 50,000 years now hosted bitter arguments and empty seats. Where 247 species once sat, barely 80 remained. General Sun Wu-bei reviewed tactical displays in Earth's military command center. His gray hair and lined face spoke of decades serving humanity. Now he prepared for something he hoped would never come. The hardliners are gathering a fleet, his intelligence officer reported. 160 ships, led by Archon Velthries personally. Where? Sun Wu asked, heading toward the Kepler sector. Where 30 human colonies are located. Sun Wu's expression darkened. They're going to force a confrontation. Velthries wants war. He immediately sent emergency communications across human space and to all Free Alliance members. Admiral Yuna Lee mobilized every available ship. The call went out. Humanity needed help. The response was overwhelming. Ships poured in from every direction. Not just from Free Alliance members, from species still technically in the Council but who refused to support Velthries' aggression, from independent systems that valued what humanity represented, from civilizations that simply believed attacking peaceful colonies was wrong. Within 3 days, over 400 ships gathered in the Kepler sector. They formed a defensive line around human space. Professor Ji-Won-Oh watched from Earth, documenting everything for the historical archives. She had spent her career studying how civilizations rose and fell. Now, she witnessed it in real time. This is unprecedented, she recorded in her notes. The Council ruled for 50 millennia through a combination of advanced technology, ancient prestige, and careful control of information. Humanity shattered that control in less than 2 years. Not through superior weapons. Through superior ethics. Archon Velthries stared at his tactical display aboard his flagship. He had expected to find human colonies defended by perhaps 50 ships. Instead, he faced an armada. They cannot have this many allies, he hissed. It's impossible. His second in command, a younger member of his species named Trick, spoke carefully. Perhaps we should reconsider this course of action. Never! Velthries' voice cracked with fury. We are the Stellar Council. We have maintained order for thousands of generations. These upstart primates will not, sir. The communications officer interrupted. Incoming transmission. It's marked urgent. From the collective voice. The bridge fell silent. The collective voice was a mysterious species that existed as pure energy and artificial intelligence. They had remained neutral in galactic affairs for over 100,000 years. They never interfered, never took sides, never even communicated except when absolutely necessary. The message played. The voice sounded like 1,000 speakers harmonizing. This is the collective voice. We have observed the current situation. We have analyzed all relevant data. We make the following statement to all parties. Humanity represents an evolutionary anomaly, a species that learns from mistakes rapidly, that adapts cultural values faster than genetic changes, that chooses compassion over conquest when given power. This is rare. This is precious. This must not be destroyed. Any species that attacks humanity now attacks the interests of galactic evolution. We will respond accordingly. Number 10. What if humanitation on the text stated, N45, anyway? The message ended. Velthries stared at the screen in disbelief. The collective voice had just threatened him. Them. The Council. His bridge crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Even they seemed uncertain now. All ships, Velthries began. His voice shook with rage and something else. Fear. All ships prepare to... No, Trix said quietly. Velthries turned. What did you say? I said no. Trix stood taller. Behind him, other crew members stood as well. I will not order our people to die for your pride. The collective voice has spoken. 400 ships stand against us. The entire galaxy watches. This ends now. You dare. Velthris reached for a weapon at his side. 3 crew members grabbed him first. Gently but firmly, they restrained their leader. You are relieved of command, Trix said. For the good of our species. For the good of what remains of the Council. This madness ends. The Council fleet turned around and left the Kepler sector without firing a shot. Velthris screamed and raged, but he was escorted to a detention cell. His time leading the hardliners was over. On Earth, President Sora Jang sat in her office as reports flooded in. The crisis had been averted, but she knew the real work was just beginning. The Council is broken, her advisor said. 80 species remain. Most are divided. Some want reform. Some want to return to the old ways. Some just want to survive. Then we give them a better option, Sora said. She had been planning this for months. Now, the time had come. She sent a message across all galactic channels. Every species received it. Every world heard it. This is President Sora Jang of Earth. On behalf of humanity and the Free Alliance, I propose the creation of a new governing body. Not a council of the powerful. Not a hierarchy of the ancient. A true assembly where every species has equal voice and equal vote. Where decisions are made through consensus, not compulsion. Where help is given freely, and trade is fair for all. We call it the Galactic Assembly. We invite every species in the galaxy to participate, not as subjects, as partners. The response was immediate. 150 species accepted within the first day. More followed. Some council species hesitated, uncertain about giving up their privileged positions, but even they saw the writing on the wall. Councillor Thrax visited Jiho Park on a neutral station. The old reptilian moved slowly now, his age finally showing. I came to apologize, Thrax said. I abstained from the vote that rejected humanity. I should have spoken against it. I should have defended you. I didn't. And I am sorry. Jiho gestured for Thrax to sit. You're here now. That matters more. I also came to ask for help, Thrax continued. Many of us want to join this galactic assembly, but we don't know how to build something equal. We've been the powerful for so long, we've forgotten how to be fair. Then we'll learn together, Jiho said. 3 weeks later, on a newly constructed neutral station, the first Galactic Assembly convened. Species from every corner of known space attended. Some sent representatives in person, others appeared as holograms. A few, like the collective voice, participated as pure data streams. Jiho stood to deliver the opening address. 18 months ago, humanity came before the Stellar Council seeking membership. We were rejected, called unworthy, told to stay in isolation. At the time, we felt shame, anger, disappointment. He paused, letting his words settle. Now I stand before you and say thank you. Thank you for rejecting us. Because that rejection freed us from trying to fit into a broken system. It freed us to show the galaxy that there's a better way. Not through age or power or advanced technology. Through respect. Through compassion. Through the simple idea that every sapient being has worth. The assembly erupted in sounds of approval. Clicks, whistles, roars, and chimes filled the air. This assembly will not be perfect, Jiho continued. We'll make mistakes. We'll disagree. We'll struggle to balance different needs and values. But we'll do it together, as equals. And that makes all the difference. Voting began on the Assembly's foundational principles. Every species had one vote. Every vote counted the same. Humanity had no more power than the smallest species present. The principles passed unanimously: mutual respect, rapid response to crises, fair trade and cooperation, protection of smaller species, preservation of cultural diversity, shared technological advancement. Thrax was elected as the first chancellor, a rotating position that would change every 2 years. He accepted with a speech about learning from mistakes and building something worthy of all species. On a distant agricultural colony, Archon Velthris worked in the fields. Humanity had not imprisoned him. They had not executed him. They had offered him a choice: face trial for attempted aggression or accept exile doing useful work. He had chosen exile. Now, he planted crops alongside humans and other species. His pride was gone. His power was gone. But slowly, working with his hands and living simply, he began to understand what he had been too arrogant to see before. One day, a human farmer named Do Yun worked beside him. They planted in silence for a while. "Why don't you hate me?" Velthris asked. "I tried to destroy your people," Do Yun shrugged. "You tried. You failed. Now you're here making food that will feed families. That matters more than the past." Velthris clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "Your species is strange." "Yes," Do Yun agreed. "We're very strange. We remember the past but don't live in it. We make room for second chances, even for our enemies." Do Yun agreed. "To Junsfor, especially for your enemies," Velthris said quietly. "Especially." Do Yun confirmed. The galaxy had changed. The old order was gone, and something better was being built. 3 years had passed since humanity's rejection from the Stellar Council. The galaxy barely resembled what it had been. The old council chamber stood empty now, a monument to past arrogance. The new Galactic Assembly met on a station called Unity, built cooperatively by 40 different species. Young Ambassador Min Seok Han walked through Unity's corridors with a spring in his step. At 25, he was the youngest ambassador humanity had ever appointed. He represented the generation that grew up knowing Earth was part of a larger galactic community. Around him, aliens of every description moved through the station. A floating jellyfish-like creature drifted past, chatting with a crystalline being that chimed when it spoke. A group of insectoid students from 3 different species studied together at a public terminal. A Drayan merchant haggled cheerfully with a human trader, both laughing at a shared joke. "Still seems like a dream sometimes," said a voice beside him. Minsok turned to see Ambassador Unji Shin, the woman who had convinced the Drayan to join the Free Alliance. She was older now, with gray streaking her black hair, but her eyes still sparkled with energy. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" Minsok asked. "No," Unji admitted. "When the council rejected us, I thought we'd spend decades in isolation. I never imagined this." They reached the main assembly hall, where representatives from over 200 species gathered. The hall was designed as a perfect circle, with no head, table, or hierarchy. Every seat was equal. Chancellor Thrax called the session to order. The old reptilian had aged even more, but his voice remained strong. "We gather for our 3-year anniversary," Thrax began. 3 years since the Galactic Assembly formed. 3 years since we chose cooperation over domination. 3 years since we decided that every voice matters equally. Applause and approval sounds filled the chamber. Clicks, chirps, roars, and chimes blended into a symphony of unity. "Today we have important business," Thrax continued. "First, we vote on expanding the Galactic Heritage Project." Dr. Heijin Kang stood to present the proposal. She had left her hospital ship to lead this initiative full-time. The Heritage Project preserves the history, art, and culture of every species in the Assembly, Heijin explained. "We've collected and archived materials from 187 species so far. We need funding to expand our teams and reach the remaining species. "Why is this important?" asked a representative from a species that had recently joined. They looked like walking trees with crystal leaves that shimmered when they moved. "Because every culture is valuable," Hajin answered. "Because we almost lost the Riftani cultural archives when they nearly went extinct. Because our children should know where we all came from. Every story matters. Every history deserves preservation." The vote passed with 98% approval. Funding was allocated. Teams would be expanded. Next came engineer Daeho Kim, now elderly but still brilliant. He had revolutionized galactic travel with his quantum fold drive. Today, he had a new announcement. "My team has refined the drive technology," Daeho said. "We're ready to share the complete specifications with all assembly members. Any species can now build these drives. Travel time will drop by 90% for everyone." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This technology represented enormous commercial and military value. Humanity could have kept it secret, sold it for profit, used it to maintain advantage. Instead, they were giving it away. "There's no cost?" someone asked. "No cost," Daeho confirmed. "We all benefit when we all advance. That's the whole point." The assembly erupted in approval. Species rushed to thank Daeho personally. He smiled modestly, embarrassed by the attention. Admiral Yuna Lee, now retired, watched from the observation gallery. Beside her stood Captain Jiho Park, also retired from active diplomacy, but still attending major sessions. "We did it," Yuna said quietly. "We actually did it." "We're doing it," Jiho corrected. "It's not finished. It never will be. Building something good is constant work." Below them, the assembly moved to its most ambitious proposal yet: the formation of mixed species exploration teams to venture into uncharted regions of the galaxy. "We've spent 50,000 years maintaining what we knew," Chancellor Thrax said. "The assembly proposes we explore what we don't know. Together. Not as separate species competing for resources, but as unified teams sharing discoveries." The proposal detailed the formation of 20 exploration fleets. Each would contain ships and crew from at least 10 different species. Humans would not lead most of these fleets. Leadership would be distributed based on expertise, not on who was most powerful or most advanced. The vote took longer on this one. Some species worried about the cost. Others feared the unknown. But eventually, it passed with 73% approval. "The flagship of the first fleet will be named Second Chance," Thrax announced. "A reminder that we all get to begin again." 1. On the agricultural colony where Archon Velthrees worked, the former council leader watched the assembly proceedings on a public screen in the community center. Around him sat humans, Drayan, Riftani, and members of his own species. They watched together, commented together, shared food together. "You could return home," a young member of his species said. "Your exile ended 6 months ago. The assembly granted you pardon." Velthrees clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "This is home now. I'm needed here. The harvest is in 3 weeks, and I promise to help." He looked at the screen, where humans spoke about cooperation and unity. "I was wrong about them," Velthrees said. "I thought strength meant power over others. They showed me strength means lifting others up. I'm still learning. Every day, I'm still learning." Back on Unity Station, the assembly session was ending. But before adjournment, an alarm sounded. Not a danger alarm. A priority communication signal. A transmission came through from deep space. A distress call. A species humanity had never encountered before was in desperate need. Their sun was dying faster than expected. They had perhaps 5 years to evacuate their entire civilization or face extinction. The assembly chamber buzzed with discussion. This was exactly the kind of crisis the new system was built to handle. Chancellor Thrax didn't hesitate. "We respond immediately. Form an emergency task force. Human engineers for evacuation planning. Drayan shipbuilders for constructing transport vessels, Riftani medical teams for managing the population. All species contribute what they can. Within hours, ships were being prepared, resources allocated, teams assembled. Species that had been enemies 3 years ago now worked side by side to save people they'd never met. Young Ambassador Min Sok Han volunteered to join the relief mission. So did Ambassador Unji Shin. So did dozens of others from species across the assembly. As the relief fleet prepared to depart, General Sun Wu Bei visited the command ship. He was ancient now, barely able to walk without assistance. But he wanted to see this moment. "You're going to save them," he said to the mixed species crew. "You're going to show them what we've built here. What's possible when we choose cooperation. Thanks to humanity," a Drayan crew member said. "No," Sun Wu corrected gently. "Thanks to all of us. Humanity was rejected. That rejection forced us to prove ourselves. But we couldn't have built this alone. Every species here contributed. Every culture added something vital. We're stronger together than any of us could be separately." The fleet launched. Min Seok stood on the bridge of the Second Chance, alongside the Drayan captain, Corlix's daughter. Behind them, crew members from 15 species worked at various stations. "Remember 3 years ago?" the Drayan captain asked. "When your species was rejected?" "Of course," Min Seok replied. "My father told me something back then. He said humanity would either destroy the old order or revolutionize it. He was right. But he was also wrong." Quote, "How so?" "Because it wasn't just humanity. It was all of us who were tired of the old ways. All of us who wanted something better. You just showed us it was possible." Through the viewport, stars streaked past as the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were heading toward the unknown to help strangers. Behind them, the Galactic Assembly continued its work, imperfect but improving, flawed but functional. Better than what came before, and striving to be better still. On Earth, President Sora Jang gave an address to humanity on the anniversary of their rejection. 3 years ago, we were told we weren't good enough, that our history of conflict made us unworthy, that we should stay isolated and small. Today, we're part of the largest cooperative alliance in galactic history. Not because we conquered, not because we threatened, because we proved that the past doesn't define the future, that growth is always possible, that compassion is stronger than arrogance. She paused, looking directly into the camera. "But we must never forget. We must never become what rejected us. We must never let power make us arrogant. We must never stop learning, growing, and striving to be better. That is the real lesson. Not that we're superior, that we're capable of change, and so is everyone else." On Unity Station, in a quiet corner, Counselor Thrax met with Jiho Park for tea. The two old friends sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "I voted against your rejection," Thrax finally said. "I never told you, but I abstained. I didn't have the courage to vote yes." "I know," Jiho replied. "I always knew. Do you forgive me?" Jiho smiled. "There's nothing to forgive. You're here now. You helped build something better. That's what matters." They drank their tea and watched through the viewport as ships came and went. Human ships, Drayan ships, Riftani vessels. Hundreds of species, moving freely, trading fairly, helping each other. The galaxy had been changed by rejection. Not by making humanity bitter or vengeful. By forcing them to prove their worth through actions instead of words. And in doing so, they had inspired countless others to demand better from their leaders and themselves. The old Stellar Council had ruled through fear and tradition for 50,000 years. The new Galactic Assembly had existed for 3 years and was still learning. But it was built on something stronger than fear or tradition. It was built on hope. And hope, humanity had learned, was the most powerful force in the universe. The end.